Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you joining us from different parts of the world. And it is an honor and a pleasure to have you in our last event for the ICW Oman for this year, 2021. And today we are going to discuss with our wonderful panelists how coaching contributes towards the growth and well being in times of adversity. So this is our subjects. And before I start introducing our panel lists, I'm, I want just to highlight some of the housekeeping for you. The session is about 90 minutes, and we are waiting for two other panelists, but we're starting it now. It's for 90 minutes. The last 30 minutes, we're going to open it for Q&A from the audience. So please, if you have any questions, just be ready. In the last 30 minutes, we're going to open it for Q&A. And also the last 2 minutes, then it will be like a summary for what have we discussed and then a closing remark. It's been a wonderful week, and we are happy to have our final event with such a one experienced, and if we can say that the aggregated experience of our panelists is over a century. So we are very happy to have our panelists, and why we have selected this subject is because, as you see, I mean, we face very adverse situations all over the time in our lives, all over our lives. Either when we are young, we are in middle aged, we grow older, and the adverse situation varies. It's sometimes we lose our friends, we change our friends, we move to different countries, we lose our jobs, we move to a new job, we have different leadership in our organizations, we become leaders in other new organizations. There are pandemics, there are other catastrophes, and there are lots. So some of these situations happen, adverse situation happens, even if we are prepared, if we take all the precaution measures or we don't. And some we can control, at least we can control the reaction, how we react to them. And some are outside our ability to control, so they happen regardless of what we do. And we are living now in one of example, which is the pandemic, uh, the COVID. So, what happens if we are living in adverse situations? The adverse situation drill our emotional responses, and they drain our energy, and also then they have impact on our health and well-being. So then what happens, what the reaction will happen? So people start blaming themselves or blaming others and make the problem grows bigger and bigger, and then things get out of control. Many others get paralyzed, they don't know what to do, and they become frozen even in front of their closest goals and closest individuals. So every adversity has a uniqueness in itself, but the responses may differ. So our reaction also does not also affect us, it affects people around us. So there is fear, there is frustration, there is confusion, there is depression and anger. So how can coaching help in this situation? How can we flip this adverse situation into a positive situation? How can we be more resilient in this? And how can we maintain our well-being despite whatever we face around us? And how does it affect individuals, teams, leadership, organizations, communities as well? So today, our esteemed panelists will going to share their collective wisdom with us, and how coaching can help us to accomplish a very specific and urgent goal we share, which is overcoming adversity using coaching as a tool. So Just sit back and relax and enjoy the panel discussion. And then I will start. Okay, so good. We have Joyce. She joined us. Okay. So I'll start introducing our panelists. And as I said before, with accumulated experience, I'm going to start with Joyce. Joyce is joining us from Canada. She's an author, speaker, and world's leading mind on interpersonal wellness competency mindset teachings. She is a conflict analyst and corporate trainer for more than 24 years. Joyce is the president and CEO of Interpersonal Wellness Services Incorporation and founder of the Global Workplace Wellness Summit and Forum. So also Joyce has authored 5 books on the subject and is a certified coach, coach training director, and C-suite level workplace wellness specialist who works with different organizations, private, government, NGOs. So welcome, Joyce.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And my next panelist is Iman Al-Gharabali. Iman is from Kuwait. Iman is the ICF Kuwait chapter president. She is recognized among her peers for executive function training, coaching for corporate professional as well as adolescent and children, supporting them to achieve their career and personal life goals with noticeable impact and confidence. Iman has over 25 years of experience in computer networking, technology, strategic planning, and risk management in oil field. She served as a volunteer in various roles, helping establish Kuwait Project Management Institute, PMI. That was from 2002 to 2017. She's also attained international recognition for developing Kuwait's ERM, Enterprise Risk Management System. Iman also divides her time between Kuwait and San Francisco and Northern Colorado, where she serves the coaches and her clients globally. Welcome, Iman.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be here.
The privilege is ours. Then Michael, we have Michael here, the only gentleman among the ladies in this panel. Michael Seller is joining us today from Italy. He's visiting his family. He's with more than 20 years of experience in creating emotional impact through communication. Michael helps executives as well as business owners to increase their impact level of commitment with their clients, business partners, and teams through coaching and consulting. Michael clients range from SMEs to multinational businesses. Michael is also a keynote speaker at conferences and events on topics such as emotional commitment and global leadership. Having lived in 3 continents, Michael coaching and leadership perspectives are on areas such as dealing with business challenges in fast changing adverse environments. So welcome, Michael.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Last but not least, we have Caroline Phillips. Caroline is our colleague in Oman. Caroline is an executive coach with an ICF credential at PCC level, along with many credentials in multiple coaching methodologies such as neuro-linguistic science, NLP, organizational development, and stakeholder-centered coaching. She is also a credentialed global human resources professional and a certified professional in talent development with over 20 years experience in the space of learning and development, specifically behavior skills enhancement. As an external practitioner, she currently serves individuals and organizations who want to grow more, do more, and be more. Thank you, Caroline, and welcome.
Thank you, Faiza, and thank you everyone for sharing some of your time with us today. Definitely appreciate the opportunity to engage. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Caroline. So we are missing one of the panelists, but we will start. So I would like to give now the floor to Joyce just for an opening remark for around 2 minutes. So Joyce, it's yours. But you are unmuted, I think. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I am so glad that you've made time to join us here It is a beautiful, cool morning here in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And I love the topic that I was invited to speak on as to where do we sit as coaches in the training and development of diverse leaders into the C-suite. This has come to attention more so since the killing of George Floyd back in 2020. There's been a worldwide push to look at diversity, inclusion, and equity. And in my work in corporation over the past 24 years, we see more integration of diversity in the front line, but not at the C-suite level. And so the question has been asked, what is the barrier? And we know there are many, but the question I ask is, how can coaching fill the gap? And so I'll just share a story with you as we go into this topic. So imagine meeting Jack. Jack is a diverse employee. He is a mid-level leader in the organization. And he is not only is he of diverse background, from a racialized group, but Jack is a team member with other members from a gender diversity as well. So he is in with a group of female leaders, and Jack has a PhD. He's very well taught and an expert in his field. And Jack's approach to me was, Joyce, I feel like I'm having a nervous breakdown. I was like, why is that? I feel ganged up on, I feel picked, I feel myself not having the ability to express my concerns or bring ideas to the table. So in my work with Jack, we were looking at some of the barriers to his success. And this allowed me, of course, to have to speak with his peers. And they were quite unaware of what Jack was feeling and how their actions were impacting Jack's ability to provide or to deliver his work in a manner where he felt confident that his colleagues would support him. They looked for ways to highlight the differences gender-wise as well as racialized, ethnicity was part of that. And they were quite surprised when they were called into the conversation and had to respond to some of Jack's concerns. And that's where the idea of that subconscious biases were part for them. And it was both gender and diversity, and gender diversity and racial diversity. And at this point, the gap was quite obvious, but only to Jack, not to his peers. And as a coach and conflict analyst, this is just a one little glimpse into what I see on a daily basis, where those who've had the opportunity to be promoted into a leadership role are not comfortable because the environment has not been prepared for them. And so a lot of the work we do is to help the others, the colleagues, to prepare for someone of a diverse group that's joining the C-suite. Mm-hmm. What can you do to help Jack feel that he belongs here? What new ideas would you be expecting Jack to bring to the table? And many of the situations that we see, for instance, we had another situation where the diverse leader was told, you're invited here, but for the first 2 years, we don't want you to say anything, just observe. And maybe in about 2 years' time, we might ask for your input. Mm-hmm. So these things are happening more often than we imagine. And coaching is the process that invites us to have deeper awareness for self as well as for what's happening. So the roadmap for creating these kinds of thoughts and helping to create healthy environment and breaking down the barriers for diversity inclusion in the C-suite, I believe coaching has a role. I have been playing that role. But even in coaching itself, when we look around who are the coaches, we see that coaching itself is not very diverse. And we need to start really within the profession to diversify ourselves as well as to reach out and to let the organizations know that we are prepared and ready to do that. One
So
of the
let
things
me,
that
Joyce, excuse me, I will stop to that point, then I will come back to you because then I want to ask you what's the relation between, or if you have diverse group and then working in adverse situation. So let me go first to Iman. I will also like to hear from Iman. Iman, you have, if you can hear from you, 2 to 3 minutes, your views about the subject.
Thank you so much. So first of all, I'm very privileged to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm in awe of the panelists that are with me. So I'm grateful to have this networking opportunity as well. Indeed, Joyce, I fully agree with you that this topic, I think everybody, and I think ICF has done a very good job in choosing, through challenging times, the actual logo that we've been following for the whole ICW is pertinent to the times that we are witnessing right now. From my little tiny minute aspect of the world, and from my limited experience in corporate and C-suite risk management and strategic management, I think that coaching plays a huge vital role that unfortunately the majority of management has ignored so far. I have witnessed how the fruits of coaching has aided so many individuals. And I know that some management that are not familiar with this actual functioning role minimize it. So in order for us to help individuals, I don't see coaching as a profession in isolation. I see coaching as a complementing to human functioning. So in order for an individual to be holistic, fully functional in their role, whatever profession that they choose, they could be just a stay-at-home mom. Certain adversities that come up in different aspects of the world affect them. Hi, Samira, welcome. Affect them. So this is where I see coaching helps in all aspects of life. And to sum it up, for me, coaching, you have to look at the human aspect of it. You don't only look at it from an analytic point of view or from an isolation point of view, because humans are actually resilient, and it all depends on the person's upbringing, the person's programming, the person's environmental effect. So you might have two different individuals in the same very traumatic experience. One is quite resilient and ready to take on and they are whole, they are healthy, they don't need coaching, they're full spot on handling the situation, while the other person, depending on their upbringing or depending on whatever traumatic PTSD experiences that they've had previously, they might be triggered by the adverse reaction that they're in. And so they actually do need not only coaching, they might even need a therapy or whatnot. So I think it's a partnership. And for me, it's very critical that we start recognizing the importance of this role as a support system to all aspects from a human perspective.
Okay. Thank you, Iman. Thank you for your opening remarks. It's very indeed, I agree with you. The environment plays a big role, and also it's the perception of how the people take it. It differs from one person to another. Michael, the floor is yours now.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm also very honored to be here and speaking today at this panel with so many wonderful other colleagues of mine. And I would like to pick up where Iman left it off. Humans are resilient. And I was preparing myself in this whole for this whole panel discussion. I thought, what angle can I bring to it about adversity? And since I'm specialized in intercultural competencies and organizational culture, I would like to take a look at it a little bit from the organizational culture aspect, because obviously, okay, as individuals, sometimes it's easier to react on sudden changes, on adversities. But how do we react as an organization? And there, the organizational culture is something that can either help us or just hinder us to really evolve from it. And obviously, organizational culture is always built on like the symbols, on the heroes, the rituals that we have, and based in the core on our values. And so those can really help us. They give us stability within an organization to function well, to perform very well. But if there are then somehow the outer circumstances that change, and like right now in a pandemic, or 10 years ago, like in the whole financial crisis, how does this whole system, this organizational culture, then react to it? Is it a system that's based on values of change or more of consistency? And there, I think as coaches, we have a lot to contribute, because we can help an organization and the organizational culture to show them the mirror, to see, okay, what are the values? What are the rituals right now that are holding you stuck and which needs to change? What are your heroes? What are the symbols in order to evolve? And the thing what you said, Iman, earlier is like humans are resilient, and also organizational cultures, teams, they are resilient. And I think we play a crucial role there by holding this deep conviction about that humans are resilient, organizations are resilient, and organizational cultures are resilient. And being able to always bring this kind of aspect, remind the people that we are dealing with, that we're working with, about their greatness, their capacity to adapt, to change. And that's why I guess I also love this profession, because it's a wonderful way of helping to realize this in order to evolve and get your organizational culture and every individual in it on a different kind of level and become more resilient in this whole process.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much. Caroline, would like to hear from you.
Yes, so I'll pick up where the rest of the panelists left off. And I'd like to start with this. Adversity is not new. The dictionary defines adversity as a difficult, unfavorable, or unpleasant situation, right? And that sure is familiar territory for a coach. And I'm sure many of us here have remarkable stories of coaching clients through these pressure-filled moments of adversity. Physical adversity, mental adversity, financial adversity, social adversity, long before the pandemic even came along. But yes, we are now working with adversity much more than we would like to, and that's sure. Perhaps because it's now so multi-pronged, or it's probably so wide or too wide to be contained in a single category. So I'd just like to spin our theme here a little, given how we as coaches are really defying these challenging times, how we are making ourselves approachable and accessible to our clients. We are embracing technology without fear, negotiating our way around diminishing budgets, marketing our services smarter, and then having to continually invest in ourselves. And all of this while juggling our own health concerns, our own family, health and safety concerns. And mind you, without diluting the purity of what we are offering. So I'm kind of tempted to rephrase the theme of our session today. Coaching, contributing towards growth and well-being in spite of adversity, not in times of adversity, but rather in spite of adversity. Curiosity, courage, connectiveness, connection, these are all valuable coaching contributions that are positively impacting growth and impacting well-being and helping people move from the fear of the unknown to the excitement of what can be. And this is where I'd like to leave it for you, Faiza.
Thank you, Caroline. Indeed,
Not at all.
we want to create like something immunity against the adversity, so that with, as you said, there are so many adverse situations we have been faced over the past years, and it's time that we create some types of like internal immune system through coaching for to deal in terms of in spite of adverse situation.
Yeah.
Thank you. Samira, welcome. Hello,
Hello.
Samira.
Hi.
How are
Good
you?
afternoon. I'm
Good
fine,
afternoon.
alhamdulillah.
Samira is our panelist from Bahrain. So I'll just introduce you briefly. She's the ex-president of ICF Bahrain chapter in 2018 to 2020. She is also known as she has grown as an entrepreneur and she has created her entrepreneurship in developing uh, youth, especially the youth, and empowering them. And her total beneficiaries has exceeded 9,000 trainers and 1,000 training days. She has also featured regionally in multiple programs to empower leaders, entrepreneurs, young professionals, and other field executives and professionals. Samira was named in the top 100 women influencers in Bahrain in 2017, 2018, and 2019. Welcome, Samira, and I give you the floor for your opening remarks. 2 minutes.
Thank you, Faiza. And because 2020 and 21, they were busy, anyway,
Okay.
right? So, yeah, my take on this is, I take it from a simpler point of view. Who would need a fitness person or nutrition person or beauty person if things were when people are thin, pretty, rich, young, right? You will need them when there is a need. We as coaches, we stand in a position saying we work on difficult areas. We can help you to create change. We can walk with you in that journey. I mean, when things are good, coaches are needed every time. My argument is you can have coaching anytime. But our stand is, what do we bring on table is we work with difficult and what do we call that? Wicked problems, right? Or wicked situations. So we cannot, at least now, we cannot call this situation more than anything else than a wicked situation. This is where we will flourish. This is our time. This is where coaching should flourish. The floor is there for us to stand up for what we claim to bring on table.
Okay. Thank you, Samira. Thank you. Yes, it's always an opportunity. There is always opportunity in adverse situation. And indeed, this is one of examples, and coaching has a lot of opportunities during this time. So Joyce, if I may ask you from your experience, and how coaching can contribute to prepare diverse leaders, especially if we just take the C-suite, the executive levels, and so that they are or that will not affect on their wellness in the workplace. So we'd like to hear from you. Can you unmute yourself? Okay.
It's interesting when we think about the C-suite, and I always remind my leaders that We all put our foot into our pants with one leg at a time. We're humans and we have frailties. We're not perfect. And that's the beauty of coaching. Coaching allows us to recognize that we are human at the core, and it brings the humanity back into the workplace. And if we bring that humanity back in the workplace, no matter what level you are in the organization, then you're able to see others as humans themselves. And when I speak with and when I work with leaders in that C-suite, they sometimes, because of the years, the challenges, even the rat race they had to play to get to where they are, sometimes makes them hardened, jaded, skeptic. Uh, so part of the work we do is invite questions to their mind, invite new ideas, new perspectives. And even the part of going about to say, well, you know what, we need to be more diverse. Here in Canada, a couple months ago, the leader of our army sent out a picture of his leadership team, and he said, we spent the whole day talking about diversity and inclusion, and we had a powerful conversation. And when you looked at the people at the table, they were all white males. And of course, there was a big uproar and a whiplash because everybody started tweeting back. I was like, really? Are you kidding me? And so then they quickly, within a few weeks, we had a female promoted into that role. And you ask, my goodness, did she just finally got that qualification to be in that role? Or was there awareness raised? In the instance where they are thinking we need to bring someone in, we need to be diverse, we need to, are there people in our organizations who can be moved up to that level? What I often encounter is they do all the work to prepare that person for the suite. They've gotten a coach, and that's fine. But where it's really lacking right now is working with the executives that are already at the table to change their mindset so that they can be inclusive, so that they can understand what it is to integrate. And the work I do is really focused around that interpersonal dynamics and how do we create interpersonal wellness in that relationship? How do we speak so that others can feel welcome? How do we challenge each other without causing harm or diminishing people's sense of value? And those are the things that a coach can do. That's where coaching comes in, to say, how might you pose that question? When you have that thought, what else are you not looking at? That's the beauty of coaching. We get to invite new ideas and new perspectives with the leaders, not only to create harmony around them, among themselves, because one of the things that I do a lot of is DEI conflict with management, where we see people who come into the organization or at these levels are encountering interpersonal conflicts and they don't know what to do. So they either resign. I have someone on my case right now. She took a demotion from her role because she couldn't deal with the dynamics. And of course, I wish I had been called before that, but I've said, wow, how do we get the organization to start using coaching to help these leaders when they get those executives to survive the transition? Because coaching is a process to deal with the transitional gap, the mindset, the new ideas that needs to be fostered, the new way of thinking, and build that resilience. I remember one leader, she was complaining to me because her organization wanted her to do interpersonal skills coaching with me. And she said, I have been always good and I don't know why. And I said, well, what if you look at it that way? The skills you had was perfect for where you were. But now that you're at another level, you need to take those skills to the next level so you can excel at this level. And then she's like, oh, okay, I get it now. That makes sense. And I think even the language that's used in corporate can be very punitive. It's not inviting dialogue. It's not creating awareness and helping the leaders to be more open to change. So that's where coaching comes in and plays a very, very important role.
Okay, thank you, Joyce. That was wonderful. Iman, if I may put this question for you, but in terms of the teams, and you being working for, you have your experience in the oil field and working with different teams. How does coaching can help to create resilience in teams in times of adversity?
Thank you. Actually, I'd like to take 2 points and link them together because I really absolutely love Caroline, forgive me if I butchered your name. And she actually said that it's coaching, I don't know, it's like, it's not coaching in times of adversity, right? It's coaching
Despite or in spite of adversity.
Despite or in spite. The reason I absolutely adore her point is because, as you know, my 25 years plus experience in the oil sector, we are in a very highly volatile situation all the time. And depending on whether you're in the refinery or you're in international marketing, those stressful impacts affect you as an individual. So despite adversity. Now, the issue is, I want to link also the other aspect is the concept of coaching itself. Although we've dubbed it as coaching in the 90s when it was created, coaching as a methodology has always, throughout our human history, been in existence. We just didn't give it a label. Now, what I've witnessed in my experience is the maturity of the C-suite itself. For coaching to actually grow and for coaching to actually be fully implemented in the proper, healthy way, it depends on the top management and how open and how healthy they are to ensure that their subordinate employees have that support system in place. So if an organization is should do this or should do that, or you do what I say, and they're limited, they're not interested in the growth of the human being that actually works for them. They're only interested in the outcome, you know, and they're not interested in looking at a holistic succession planning or the support system. Because like I said in my opening statement, an individual you cannot see an individual from that 9 to 5 point of view or 7 to 3 point of view. They have other characteristics within them and they have a growth within them. So it's absolutely critical in order for us to be powerful coaches. We have to look at the individuals, how we can energize the organization, how we can energize, how we can empower people in spite of the volatility or the adversity or whatever situation is happening. Our role is to actually be the support system, irrespective of what's happening, through the calm and through the not so calm.
Okay, that's great. So coming back to you, Michael, and one point have been raised by Iman, which is the volatility of the adverse situation, and also how it affects the people. It's also some of the cases where you have like changes in the organization or different changes, then the motivation of the employees will go down, and then sometimes goes up and then goes down. So the same thing we can find it through the in adverse situations. So how can coaching can help in improving the motivation and commitment of the people, starting from the either from the leaders or from as well the team?
Mhm. Good. I think I would like to build on both Joyce and Iman's statements, because I think they're very interconnected, and also like answer then to your question, because I think like a lot in the C-suite, what happens is, why are people holding on to these power positions in the C-suite? At the core, it's fear. Fear of losing status, fear of losing their positions and need to give up something. And also like what Iman was saying, like, are we just focusing on the outcomes on the performance of our organization, or are we really lifting it to a level of where we focus to develop human beings and therefore also our organization? So for me, it's very much of like being able to recognize these kind of difficulties, these kind of challenges, and addressing them as a coach and helping them to overcome their fears by connecting them with their true purpose. And their true purpose, I think, of every executive, of a leader, of a manager, and also of every company, has to do or needs to have to do with developing human beings in order to be able to thrive. Because I think that's the most underrated factor still within every company, is like our human potential, our creativity, our flourishing, our ingenuity, our capacity to reinvent ourselves again. And so therefore, as coaches, the more we are able to address these aspects, to help them to tap into their hidden and dark emotions and to bring them, to light, and therefore face these kind of difficulties, brings more human flourishing, helps us to connect every single one of us within the culture to our purpose, to our values. Maybe get rid of some kind of old structures that are just there to hold power, but actually don't bring out any kind of positive energy. And as to bring an organization to the next level, and also every single human being in this organizational culture also to the next level.
It's true. The values are very important. In such situations, sometimes we deviate from our values, but it's very key to all the organizations and individuals to stick their own values. So, Caroline, what do you think? Is there any specific coaching tools or a way of coaching when you coach leaders in adverse situation when they are in, can say, the stable situation? Is there any difference?
Well, for me personally, no. But
Okay.
I sincerely believe that leadership right now is in a crisis of epic proportions. And like Michael said, leaders fear, they are vulnerable. So they are now in a more so vulnerable position, and they fear losing control, because leadership, control, it seems like they go very synonymous with each other. So for me, with leaders, and I believe that the way to work with leaders in this whole situation is about allowing them that quality time, which is so rare for them these days, quality thinking time, a trusted space where they can try and test those ideas of theirs, get better clarity, get more enriching insights, help them uncover deeper issues. So probably it's about diving a little deeper than usual, depending on what they're bringing with them. But the whole focus here is to do whatever we can, or do whatever I can personally in my capacity as a coach, to help them open up those thought patterns, to kind of provoke free thinking for them, encouraging them to think flexibly. And one great thing that I think as coaches we can do, because leaders are very apprehensive about consciously coming to training or consciously coming to a coaching session. But if they can see coach-like conversations happening around them, there could be a potential for some subconscious learning, learning behaviors like radical candor, or non-reactive empathy, or probably intuitive questioning. All these are what coaches do. And if leaders can see that in action from a coach, by a coach, it kind of wears off on them. It can rub off on them in some way and, facilitate their whatever it is they want to do. And most important of all, that I think is valuable from a coach's perspective for a leader, is to be able to embrace the unknown like a coach does. All right. So it's about helping the leader feel comfortable with not knowing. And that is something that many leaders are afraid to accept and afraid to manage. But if they see a coach and observe the way a coach does his or her work, that's something that they may be open to, to accept. And then there is this issue with the current times of agility. And a coach stands for agility. A coach is all about agile thinking, right? So this conscious ability to shift according to a situation, that's what a coach does. So I personally believe that working with leaders is about, in our own sweet way, demonstrating who a coach is and what a coach is, so that they can wittingly or unwittingly, consciously or subconsciously, take on some of those behaviors and allow them to, we can allow them to prioritize their emotional well-being, their physical well-being. I hope I'm getting my point across here. So for me, it's all about role modeling with a leader. Okay. The more we role model what coaching stands for, what the ICF stands for, I think they'll get it. They'll get it. Yes. And our job would be done. Definitely. Over to you, Faiza.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Carola.
Not at all.
Yeah. Samira, now on the same perspective, is there any, or what's the consideration coaches can make when coaching young generation or young people during adversity?
And those young people are in C-suite or leadership roles?
They can be leaders, they can be young C-suite, they can be young generation. Since you are working with empowering the young generation.
Oh, that's my passion area, but my career area is actually executive coaching and team coaching, right? So I resonate actually with both questions. What I mean, it's quite scary. Whatever Caroline was saying, I was actually writing down the notes, and I was like, okay, that's an interesting point of view there. Absolutely, points on team systemic view, definitely 100%. The organizations didn't have that budget to do team coaching and leadership coaching, and now they don't have the time and budget to do that. So here comes our role, and in what ways, even especially for external coaches, how you will look at the solution. What is it there? What work you're going to show there? What are they looking for? Because it's not only the adversity, there are already hidden layers in that system, a lot of nested systems, a lot of stories in that. We have, especially when you talk about diverse teams, so we have discrimination, we have stereotyping, we have biases. These are ancient problems. Adversity is, wrapping it up together. So if we take the first part of youth, it's a totally different. I will not actually sit down and tell you what to do, because we are learning as we go. We are in it right now. We are implementing and experimenting things. When we talk about teams and the way organization think today, as Caroline nicely said, agility is what we stand for. So we as coaches, are we familiar with how agile mindset works, how agile organizations work? Do we have any specific frameworks we work with? Are we doing lean? Are we doing SAFe? Are we doing Scrum Mastery there? What are we trying to bring in? Because it's not only the powerful question, which is a big part of it, it's also the way of doing things, a way of work, which we call it the wow thing. Yeah. So yeah, the point I'm trying to make here is we are, as coaches, we are also learning as we are going in this together. Right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Definitely, it's the aha moment that created during the coaching session. That's give it its feel. Okay. Coming back to you, Joyce, and there are a lot of questions I can see in the chat, and we can have it later on. But also, it's the impact on the of the adverse situation. It's not only on the individuals. Like if you take an example of a company, it's not only on the company itself, but also the companies are have their stakeholders, like they have their partners, they have their suppliers. So how can coaching uh, help in this? When you coach your client, how can also it transfers its impact to the partners and suppliers, especially at the time of adversity?
Well, one of the tools we see here is that coaching is an opportunity to transform the organizational culture. And we do quite a bit of coaching and culture change. With our coach training school at Coach Velocity School of Coaching, one of the pieces we teach is a relational leadership program where we're teaching leaders to change the way they relate with their employees and with their network and constituents, because relationship is how the world works. And when they go through that process, their thinking changes. The way they engage their employees, their peers, and their constituents changes. They ask different kinds of questions. They are more self-aware and more aware of what's going on around them from a non-critical perspective. Because when you work with leaders, one of the things you recognize is that they take critical thinking to the next level. And they take it, and it's on the other side. And one of the things that we talk about, I often talk about with organizations, is many of them, they consider coaching to be something you engage in when there is a problem, when you're not doing well. And some of my bigger clients actually have a coaching culture where when you get asked to go into coaching, you know you are in trouble. And part of my work has been to actually even change that. Because I wear the hat of a conflict analyst, I get called in when things are not good. So that's typically my entry into the organization, is when things are not going well at all and people are not talking to each other, or they get sent to work with me when this is kind of like your last straw. So when I go into those situations, I work my way from there backwards. Is as an analyst, my role is to ask, how did we get here?
Yeah.
What kinds of systems, how is the system designed that allows this behavior to perpetuate? What kinds of skills is the organization promoting among the people? What is interpersonal? How do they view interpersonal dynamics as a culture in the organization? And that filters into the way they hire their contractors, like myself, the way they hire all the people that work internally and externally, how they engage their constituents. And some of my clients are in Crown Corporation or the government, and so they have a responsibility to engage at a different level because it's taxpayers' dollars that's paying them. So it's very interesting what we see. One of the things that I'm hearing from my leaders, so I will be putting, let's say we're putting over 100 leaders from an organization through a relational leadership program, and they continually will tell us, we need our C-suite to say what you're teaching us. And so we've actually built a bridge program for the C-suite that gives them an accelerated entry into that program at their level, to know this is what your leaders are going to be expecting from you. And there are lots of different ways in which we can, when we go in to help organizations in their development, to help them to strategize so that they can be more agile, so they can be more responsive. And especially in today's culture globally, where organizations are telling us we can't find people from diverse background to bring into the leadership role. We're like, are you looking the right places? All of these things are part of the way they connect with their constituents. And they're starting to realize how disconnected they are with certain segments of the population, and how to. I was invited by a political party to keynote because they wanted to know how to build their engagement with diverse people. So they're starting to get the message. And I think we just need to be consistent and stay on message and continue to engage them in a positive way.
Yeah, thank you, Joyce. So Iman, with what Joyce has mentioned, and in addition to that, how do you think or the coaching can help in reducing the burnout from during the time of adversity in the workplace?
Yeah. So it's everything that we've covered actually is lining up very nicely, and it's all integrated with each other. So if I pick up to where I left off, the coaching cannot be successful in an organization. You're asking me, how can it be helpful in an organization to avoid burnout? And I come back again to Carolyn's point. It doesn't really matter if you're in an adverse situation or not. Burnout actually happens if the individual is not cared for. If you're not looking at your subordinates or your employees or your colleagues as a human person, because adverse situations could not be related to the work. It could be something else happening at home. It could be, whatever reason, you yourself as a human being could be in a very stressful situation and nobody at work will know about this. I've seen this happen. And this is why coaching is actually really critical. It's really critical to be embedded in every single system, in every single organization. And I come to Joyce's very, very good point. The way that certain management and certain executives portray coaching to be as a troubleshooter, to see, well, how did we get to that phase? How did we actually reach that phase? We have to instill a coaching system, a successful coaching system. And for a successful coaching system to take place, you cannot just send management team leaders or executives to training. If they go to the training and then you're not giving those individuals, let's say, one day a month or whatever to do peer-to-peer coaching, to actually practice, to actually witness how the powerful dialogue, how the empowering of coaching takes place in front of you, then the coaching culture cannot be embedded. It's not like, oh, we did XYZ amount of training sessions on coaching, therefore our managers and our executives now know what coaching is. If they're not, you will all know here, everybody here knows, like if you take a language and you don't use that language, you're not gonna know how to speak it when you travel to that country. So coaching is the same way. If we are to support our employees, I don't want to call them employees, I come back to my point. We are all a jigsaw puzzle. We're all part of that huge puzzle, whether you want to look at it from your private company serves a bigger company, which serves the community, which serves the country, which serves the earth. We're all part of that puzzle. And if you don't holistically look at the synergies on how everything works together, you're going to have a whole bunch of holes in it. So like I said, coaching is not something new. Yes, we've labeled it in the 90s as coaching, but for it to successfully be embedded and used, and every human has that support system, be it at work, be it outside work, be it in a school system, in a university, the people have to start looking at how you can empower an individual. They have to start looking at it. I'm not sure whether it was Joyce or Carolyn said, empowering through empathy. through role modeling to actually see, put those light bulbs come on and actually see. I like to say to everybody, you know, take your eyes out of your head and put it in your heart and start looking from your heart. You're looking at a human being. You're looking at another individual that has so many different aspects affecting them. And once that human being feels they are in a safe place, you know, I'm not sure who said it, that they have that fear, whether it's an executive fearing losing their job, or whether it's an employee fearing a very bad performance evaluation. Once you have to eliminate that fear, the individual has to feel safe coming into that workplace, has to feel safe coming into the university, has to feel safe coming into that school system. It's coming to Maslow's law that, you know, if you look at any other culture, the grounding aspect, the safety aspect, the feeling okay to share, feeling okay to be vulnerable is what coaching is all about.
Okay, thank you, Iman. So if we would like to build a bridge toward resilience, and we put what Iman has mentioned, the system is one component of that bridge. If I can ask you, Michael, what will be the second component in that bridge?
The second component to the bridge, I think,
Yeah.
for resilience, there's always has to be this kind of bridge, this kind of connect, because like what Iman was mentioning earlier points towards like you can see it on an individual level and then more on the collective level. And it's always this paradigm, and also like our economy that works on how to say, like we want to achieve unlimited growth with limited resources.
Okay.
And so like for us, it's very, very important to realize, okay, we are finite. Every single one of us, we just have some kind of resources that we have. And this kind of feeling like how far can we go? Where are our limits? Brings us sometimes back into our power, where we really then could feel that and say we are enough. So maybe has to do with being enough. It's, I think it was Gandhi who said it, there's definitely enough for everyone's need, but not for everyone's greed. And those are, for me, somehow the important aspect to see, okay, how can we build, again, this kind of connection with what we really need and not so much what we greed for.
Okay. So it's the system, it's put what we need. What else, Caroline, in that bridge?
So for me, if we need to defeat adversity, if we need to defy these challenging times, in my opinion, it's two things. It's courage and it's emotional literacy. So when I talk about courage, it's physical courage. We've got to risk some form of physical discomfort, shape, size, fashion, form, whatever. It's about intellectual courage. We've got to be able to learn new ways of working. We've got to be able to be willing to grapple with new concepts, new technology. Moral courage. We've got to be able to do the right thing, no matter what the inconvenience, no matter whether it's a loss of profits, whether we've got to have the moral courage to do the right thing. And then social courage. We've got to be able to express our opinions. We've got to be able to share our preferences in a comfortable, in a safe environment. And then the spiritual courage. We've got to be available to the deepest questions about the whole meaning, the whole purpose of what we are here for. And then there's emotional courage. We've got to be willing to act on how we are feeling, regardless of what the outcome is. And I personally believe coaching is what supports clients do all this heavy lifting. You see, the second aspect that I think would help build that bridge is to facilitate emotional literacy. I'm sure you'll know that the range of emotions has expanded so much these days. There's too much going on so rapidly, and employees, people, individuals, they just need that time to be able to process those emotions. So when we talk about these emotions, it's Is it tragic optimism? Is it toxic positivity? What is it? Is it, like Adam Grant said, is it languish? Is it post-COVID stress disorder? Is it survivor syndrome? All these are very new emotions, new to coaches and new to people. And as coaches, what we can do is we can start with helping people label them, accept them, acknowledge them, accept them, and then figure out a way to work with them. So for me, that's what it is, to build this bridge to be able to defy these challenging times.
Okay. So thank you. I can't thank you enough, all the panelists. Now I want to take the questions from the participants, and and sorry for I'm 5 minutes late. So okay. So there's a question for you, Joyce, from Brenda Van Rossum. She says, Joyce, very empowering discussion on using coach awareness to break down barriers when dealing with diversity, inclusion, and belonging, as well as dealing with adverse life situation. This is an aha moment. Okay, so this is a comment for you, Joyce. Thank you. Another question from Mary Lillian. When you say working in adversity situation, what do you mean by that? Would you like Samira to take this question? Although we answered this question, but if you, yeah.
So adversity, the way I see it, adversity is any situation if somebody or something's expectation is not met.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Fair enough.
So may I jump in here?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So,
sure.
like I said, the dictionary says adversity is a difficult, unpleasant situation, right? So if you go by that, difficult, unfavorable, unpleasant situation, you've got a client who has social adversity. He's got relationship issues, or she's got communication issues. That's social adversity. You've got a client who has fiscal problems. That's financial adversity. It's it's an unpleasant situation. It's as simple as that. You've got a client who's low on self-esteem. That's mental adversity. You've got a client who's struggling with fatigue. That's physical adversity. You've got a client who, let's say, wants to find his purpose or her purpose, life's purpose, but is struggling with that. It's an unpleasant feeling. That's spiritual adversity. So, and we've worked with all of that. And I hope that helps there.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you so much. Yeah. So any other questions? Okay.
I'll take one here. I see someone is asking how coaching can help develop skills for higher position and how to measure it. One of the things that coaching does, many of the leaders, I keynote at a conference on diversity, equity, and inclusion in January. And the feedback from the leaders that were there is that we cannot find leaders, we cannot find people of diverse groups to promote into leadership in our organization. And I chuckled when I saw that. I was like, well, you haven't even spent time developing mainstream leaders. Why would you even think about diverse leaders? But the reality is, coaching is about equipping people with the tools, knowledge, and skills to live their life better, to work better, to be better. So if you have key people in your organization, you need to give them an opportunity to set their developmental plan. And as they do that, if they identify what goals they want, where do they want to go in the organization, then you can look at what skills do you need to get here. And coaching helps in that it helps to do assessment. One of the things that we all do, I believe, all of us as coaches, I know we've done, we have several different assessment tools. We help clients to assess where they are now and where would they like to be, or assess their strengths, or their strengths and different types of skills. So communication skills, their conflict skills. So we're looking at helping them to gain awareness through these tools of where they are and where their limitations may be, or rather their excesses. and then helping them to be able to curtail those so that they can excel in their career, in their positions, in their profession. So by doing that, they become aware of what they need to develop. They can access either it's training, or sometimes it is a social adversity. It is that they lack the interpersonal skills, they lack the communication skills, they lack the confidence. They're not able to present. There's so many things that people show up with when you're talking to them and they're really looking at going into leadership. Well, I hate to speak in public. But coaching is a great tool to ask, where is that coming from? What is it you're afraid of? What is the worst thing that can happen? And it helps them to start processing and starting to understand, okay, this is my struggle. Here's what I can do about it. And that's what we help people into the various groups move up in their organization, because what we may think is a challenge for someone may not be the challenge for everyone else. We're all very unique, and wherever the issue is, that's the beauty of coaching. It is so personal. So we can help the clients to focus in on what their struggle is, what the adversity is, what the barrier is for them, and then how to remove it so that they can be successful.
Okay, sorry, I had some technical problem. I had to switch off my video. Now it's solved. Sorry for that. Okay, thank you, Joyce. Thank you very much. We have a question from Samia and Nabi. She says, I have a problem. Some people, when I put humility first, they said I'm weak and not good leader. Humility. Okay, sorry. Humility. They say I'm weak and not good leader. How can I do it? So who would like to answer this question?
I'll try and do that, because I can understand where she's coming from, because I myself, to this day, I'm guilty of this. Even though I have climbed the ladder and I've reached, where I need to reach, I've been guilty of this. Even while I'm being president of ICF Kuwait chapter, I still receive certain comments saying, oh, you're too, you have to be, you shouldn't show your vulnerabilities. You shouldn't be so humble. People will take advantage of you and this and that. And I say, shine the way that you are, because like I said, everything works to its, there's a higher purpose in everything. People tend to forget that. You want to call it a higher force, you want to call it a magnetic force, you want to call it what you want to call it. Different cultures call it differently. Things fall into place the way that they are meant to happen. You be true to yourself and shine and lead to the way that you are natural. Do not wear things or suits that may not fit you. So do your thing and everything will work out just the way that it's supposed to be. That's my take on it.
Thank you, Iman. Nice takeaway.
May I add something to that?
Please, Michael.
So I work a lot with people from different cultures, basically. So like the whole cultural competence is a big thing. And very often I think we are confronted with literature, which was well researched, most of all in the United States. So a lot of fads and trends in the whole leadership culture come from that kind of culture. And we then think, oh, this is now the thing that we need to practice. But maybe it does not really go in line with our values of the culture where we are coming from. So like where now, for example, like the whole servant leadership style and a lot of humility in leadership is very, very good concept, good mindset about it. But it'll definitely looks different in the United States than it might look in Kuwait or in Oman or in Austria. And so it's very important because like as a leader, we always have some kind of image, some kind of role models there in our minds. And while we can somehow, on a certain aspect, we need to fulfill these kind of role models that others can see in us. And within these role models, we can then take a different approach because we still need to be effective. Because like certain cultures have an idea of and an expectations of hierarchies, which is way greater, and other cultures have like a smaller hierarchies expectations. And so if we break down immediately all the hierarchies, we will not be able to be effective. But we can still have like the same kind of concept there, but feed it with more humility. And that's, I think that's what's also necessary to be able to be still effective within your culture, to keep that in mind, keep true to the values of the people that you lead, but still nourish it with the humility, with greater humility, with greater ideas that you are bringing to the table, because that's also fulfilling your higher purpose and your fullest potential.
Okay.
Hope this makes
Thank
sense.
you. Yeah, thanks.
I want to just add something to this.
Mhm.
A couple of weeks ago, I had about 65 leaders with me, and the topic was leading through difficult situations. And we thought that they were going to be coming and talking about all the difficult things that were happening with COVID, and that's what I prepared for. And then I had to put my slides away, and we just ended up with a group coaching session because they were talking human issues, right? And they were sitting in my wheelhouse because it was all about interpersonal dynamics. How do we get people to respond? How do we get our employees to take action? How do we improve performance even when we're away, we're virtual and we're remote, and really dealing with the human piece. And so we have to remember that many leaders come into the role, and like my colleague here was just saying, they come into the role and they have a model that they want to now manifest in their leadership, but it doesn't fit. And the beauty of coaching is say, what kind of leader would you like to be? What does that look like? When you go to bed at night, what do you want to be comfortable with in terms of yourself? 100 years from now, what do you want your legacy as a leader to be? And this kind of question shocks them out of that complacency of just doing what I've been told or modeling what I've seen. Because we challenge leaders in coaching to be themselves. We challenge all our clients to be authentically themselves. And I think the whole question of humility here comes back to authenticity. I said, if you're authentic, you don't have to work that hard at being humility, and humility, it just comes naturally as part of who you are.
Okay. Thank you, Joyce. Yeah, thank you. And it come up to when you have the legacy, you reach to the level 5 of the leadership. That's the highest level of leadership. And okay, I'll take another question. Now we have few questions. This one's from Matt Jabur. Thank you, Matt. Interesting discussion, and a lot of it related to internal power. So how do you help clients develop internal power? Samira, would you like to take this?
Yeah, sure. So where it comes from, I mean, I have a totally different take on the idea of internal power. I believe we human beings are connected net, and our powers are taken from each other. That's where the collective work can come from. We cannot survive as a single species living alone. That's why we are not okay staying at home alone. We are not okay by not, being able to hug each other or do that. So my point here is, maybe this will cover a couple of points there. Internal power is the power, if our work as coaches can bring the client to a place where they know that they are very powerful piece in the system, that can add a lot. Mm-hmm. If our work is said, hey, you focus a lot on human but not thinking about the company, if our work can bring that this employee will reach an objective done and created and aspired by a lot of other humans, because that's what organization is, right? A lot of human beings' aspirations. if we reach to a place where we find one person, one board director thinks that my work will have a collective impact. I, as a student, if I did, my work will have a collective impact on the school. That's where the internal power will come. That's where we know I mattered as human being. It wasn't only for me, it was something that will be there way after I leave.
Yes, definitely. Very long-term impact, yes.
Yes, very salient features. May I just chip in here? Very, very salient points, Samira. And again, just to add that little bit to that, if coaching is holistic, it's about the bio, the psycho, and the social environment of that individual. So if you're talking about developing internal power, it is about addressing those self-regulation, supporting the client with self-regulation, supporting the client with developing a sense of gratitude for who the client is and what he is. And then, of course, there are different tools. There are the 4 A's that we use sometimes. And because everything is about change in some shape, size, fashion, or form, I find using the ADKAR model, I use it very loosely, creating awareness, creating a desire, creating the knowledge and the abilities, and then the reinforcement for that, whatever the change that the client desires to happen, or whatever change the client wishes to happen. So yes, that was a very wide question, but Samira, you did justice to that.
Thank you, Samira. So, okay, we have many
We-
questions. We have
Oh.
a few questions, yeah. Okay, so
I was
I can-
just wanted to add something to the inner power, if I may. So basically, for me, inner power and also like the real learning always happens outside of our comfort zone. It has to do with our self-efficacy. So basically, whenever we feel like we cannot do something and we step over that, that helps to develop inner power. Whenever we decide to do something we've never done before. And I think coaching comes in there to help our clients always to dream bigger and to be bigger, show bigger up in the whole world, and do the things that beforehand we thought we weren't able to do, and to realize it was just a thought.
Yeah,
Beautiful,
definitely.
Michael.
Beautiful, thank you. So we have a question now from, sorry, just trying, from Ashish. The question then, thank you for enriching the dialogue. Do you have experience of coaching through mediating in conflict across multiple parties? I can see a smile on your face, Joyce, because this is also one of the titles of one of your books, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Well, as a conflict analyst over the last 24 years, I've had all kinds of conflict you can think of. I often say to my students, nothing shocks me. And then something comes along and shocks me out of my system. So yes, I do have had experience working with multiple parties, departmental leaders, executive boards, you name it. And there's a difference when you're working with diversity, conflict as well. And I always say in times of difference, so diversity is a magnified. And we think sometimes of diversity when we broaden it to include the wide range of diversity. It could be diversity in leadership, it could be diversity in gender roles, it could be diversity in racialized groups, or so many religion. There's so many different types of conflicts that occur. Humans have that thing called values, and when we feel that something is in competition with our values, our needs, or interests, then we're a conflict. And how we go about it is challenging, because this is not something that we get taught in primary school. And I always get told by my clients, Joyce, you should teach this in primary school. I'm like, there's somebody else who will do that, not me. The reality is one of the tools I developed in my work, it's a very simple tool. It's a 9-dimensional tool that helps people to see how well they are in the 9 dimensions of their life. And I think it's on all our websites at interpersonalwellness.com and Coach Velocity School of Coaching. But one of the things that it shows you is the 9 areas of your lives. And in there, it brings to the forefront some key life areas that, elements within these 9 areas of life. And so we look at social, emotional, we look at occupational, we look at spiritual, we look at intellectual, we look at environmental, we look at financial, we look at physical, and interpersonal, of course, with my wheelhouse. But I was seeing clients showing up with difficult conflict, very protracted situation, and they were not recognizing the impact it was having on all the other areas of their lives and how they were interacting with each other. And they show up for coaching or they show up for mediation. And I've actually created this concept, and it's sort of like a hybrid of coaching and conflict intervention and transformation, all put together, and biology all put together, because I couldn't find a model that was diverse enough to deal with the situations, the complex and dimensional situations that were coming. And clients quite like it because it's very visual, it's colorful, and they can see right away where they need to do their work. Because most of the times they were looking outside themselves for the solution. If that person didn't do that, if that person didn't. And so we actually invite them back into self. Where are you not doing well? Where is this bothering you? Which part of you is uncomfortable with what you're facing? And they're able to quickly get that awareness and start saying, oh, so the attention moves from external to internal. And it's interesting how everything changes after that. So that's how I manage those situations.
Yeah. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you. So we have less than 5 minutes and we have many questions. So I'm sorry, I maybe will not be able. I'm happy to stay more than later than 6:30, but I'm sure that you have also commitment. So I will I will ask Suresh to unmute yourself and ask the question. Suresh, if you are still there. Okay, by the time you join us, then I'll take a question from Ahmed Al-Abri. What is the difference between handling individual adversity and general adversity? So, Iman, Caroline, or
Yeah, I'll Caroline too. Okay, so I'll be brief. Difference between handling individual adversity. I think I gave an example of when an individual goes to work, and I've seen this happen. Only those closest to that individual knows that that person is struggling. They put up a front. They do their job immaculately. Their managers, their supervisors, nobody knows that they are internally struggling, that they are in turmoil internally. If they actually confide in someone, they tell that someone, don't let anybody know because it's going to affect my image, or it's going to affect, I don't want anybody to know, or their pride or whatever. So that is an individual adversity, an internal struggle that nobody else knows about, and they are struggling to try and figure out how do they function, meet everyone's expectations, but at the same time take care of their individual needs. However, outside adversity is a group of individuals facing the same issue, and like I said in the very beginning, that may or may not affect them in the same way because of the way that they were brought up, because of their resilience to handling pressures or whatnot. If you have a soldier that's been through several wars, in the middle of an earthquake or a fire, they're not going to be fazed. But if you have somebody that's not had any type of turmoil or any type of situations, then they're going to be very fazed, and they're going to be very shook up, and they're going to be shook up for several weeks, and might need therapy. So that's my take on it.
thank you. So the last question to you, Caroline, and sorry if I cannot take more questions. And this is from Suresh. I think he typed it. How and what can we as a coaches or ICF like organization do to create awareness about the role that we can play in adverse times like the current pandemic. So just in a brief, just 1 minute, Caroline.
I think we are already doing, but we can do more. So it is about being role models ourselves, engaging in coach-like conversations, regardless of whether we are coaching or not. So it doesn't matter whether we are coaching or not, wherever we are, whoever we are interacting with, engage in a coach-like conversation. And sooner or later, the power of coaching will come through. And we just keep doing more of what we are doing already. And I feel pretty positive that we will make ourselves seen and heard.
Yeah. Well,
Pfizer, I'm happy
yeah.
to stay on if anyone wants to interact. So
likewise.
Okay.
I saw a question in the chat about, I think it was something to do with ROI, if I'm not mistaken, and that's my cup of tea. So it's probably about asking how do we, it was way up. I don't know if it's there, or was it just me imagining it, because ROI is my baby. So
yeah, just
I remember seeing it somewhere.
yeah. Okay, so I think, I don't know, Iman, Samira, Michael, do you want to stay a bit more, or just to take
unfortunately I have another class to I need my students will be here in 20 minutes. So thank you very much for this opportunity, ICF Aman, and it is always lovely to meet you and the dear panelists. We will see you. Stay safe in the time of adversity.
Thank you, Samira. Thank you all for today. We are also saying goodbye to the ICW event for 2021. And while we are saying goodbye to it, we also, during the past week, there were a lot of events all worldwide and also here in Oman. We are very happy that, and we want to thank our coaches, the members here in Oman ICF who contributed towards 170 coaching hours, pro bono coaching hours during this week. And we also had, thank you, and we also had a wonderful session about how coaching can contribute towards achieving Vision 2040. And with all this, also today's event, it was really, as they say, save the best for the last. So we are very happy, and with this also we were very privileged to have you as our panelist, and we look forward to our future events, not only the ICW 2022, but also during this time. What we have also realized now, we have as ICF Amman chapter being one of the ICF organization and being part of the ICF organization, what the ICW has told us is that there's a lot of things done in empowering the people and in also promoting the coaching cultures here in Oman. And being part of the ICF Global, also we are promoting the coaching culture global wide. And having you as a panelist from everywhere in the world, that's a very good example. So I want thank you, each one of you. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Iman. Thank you, Samira. And for those who are wishing to stay, since Caroline and Joyce are willing to stay, I want to take this opportunity. If you want to have other questions, I'm fine to stay a bit, maybe 15 minutes more. I don't know about you, Michael and Iman.
I need to leave. I'm sorry about that.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.